Hi, I'm Maury Schenk, the CEO of LearnerShape, here to talk about the Catalyst Fund 6 Universal Skills Authentication Project. We built LearnerShape Skills Graph, which allows authentication of any skill using decentralized IDs and verifiable credentials. Skills Graph sits on top of a Prism, which sits on the Cardano blockchain. We've designed Skills Graph from first principles. It's open source and standards based. It's very powerful and flexible with a simple interface, which we'll show to you. It has two components, both of which are open source. This is the core team, and I'll turn it over to Sean Miller to demo the platform.
Here's a whistle-stop tour of the Skills Graph functionality through the UI. We're not going to cover everything, we're ignoring credentials for others, but there is copious documentation, so I encourage you to explore that or any of the other points that come up in the documentation. For now, we're going to look at creating a credential, inviting other people to authenticate it. We'll log back out and log in and get in someone else for that, and creating a public view. Let's create a credential. Let's say live scripting. We can add a description and we can add authenticators. So these are people who will be invited to create an account if they don't have one, and or invited, if they do have an account, to log in and verify that you have these credentials. Add as many as we like. So for this one, we're here now. And we see as Anne, our authentication is accepted because we've created the credential. We've invited two other people. In a few minutes, these will show with Cardano submission transaction IDs. So you can investigate the API layer, the actual blockchain content of this. But for now, we're just going to log out as Anne, log back in as Ben, and see we now got a new invited authentication. That's the one we just created, live scripting from Anne. If we refuse it, we just fall off the edge of the list. If we accept it, then we also fall off the edge of the list, but we are now an authenticator of this. So if we log out as us, as Ben rather, and log back in as Anne, we can see that the credentials for live scripting now includes Ben accepted as well as Anne accepted. And this was the one that's done earlier and has now also got the submission transaction ID. Third thing we're going to look at here is creating a public view. So Anne now has 3 skills. We can show a subset of them. We can show them in a different order than the order they came in on. Let's say we want to create a public view of the live coding and live scripting. We can create that. It shows up here at the bottom. This is now a publicly accessible link. You don't need to authenticate to use that. If Anne decides there's a terrible mistake, she didn't want to make that active, she can mark it inactive, and that, of course, makes the view basically non-public. And that's the whistle-stop tour.
Thank you very much, Sean. Now I'll turn it over to Jonathan Street to demo the platform architecture.
We have structured our project into 2 repositories to enable reuse. While the UI component provides a general purpose proof of concept, the separate API component could support alternative front ends for specific workflows. Both components use Docker containers, and a Docker Compose file in each repository facilitates starting all containers quickly. Taking a new credential as an example, a request is first received by the web container in the UI component. This then connects through to the API, which via a broker can spawn a background task. This is executed by the worker, connecting through to the blockchain Kotlin container, and finally out to the Prism SDK. Both repositories are open source and can be found on GitHub. The UI is a Ruby on Rails application, while the API is a Python Flask application with a Kotlin application for the low-level interactions with the Prism SDK. There is also extensive documentation available on the different requests that the API supports, with schema information and examples included.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Where we're going next? Well, we have Fund 7 funding for a pilot of what you've just seen, and this is underway in the Cardano community. We have Fund 8 funding for a bigger pilot with international certification company PeopleCert, where we're piloting Skills Graph for their DevOps qualification. In Fund 9, we'll be submitting a proposal to augment the platform you've just seen to be enterprise ready. You can check out our live site. Here's the link with its documentation. Check out our GitHub repos and our API specification, or get in touch to get involved. Thank you very much.